Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Find a Moment podcast, where we navigate the space between ideals and everyday life. We are your hosts, Gretchen Roberts and Jennifer Ford, and we look forward to finding a moment with you today.
Welcome back to our series on health and wellness, where we've been talking about the ideals in everyday life when it comes to things like nutrition and exercise and the mental components that help us set goals and carry those out and see progress. Today's conversation is going to be about exercise. If you have not listened to the first two episodes in this series, I would definitely encourage you to go back and listen to at least the first one to start, because that's where we're laying a lot of the kind of groundwork in the discussion, where we talk about resources and the big picture framework for how we want to view these topics. So if you want to keep listening to this, you certainly can, but I would definitely encourage you to check out that first episode, because the action steps at the end are going to help prepare you for what we discuss and how to kind of apply what we move into in this episode. Episode 2 is on nutrition, where we get into a lot of the nitty-gritty details about tracking your calories and making adjustments to that, and then also breaking down, looking at your macros and protein recommendations. Gretchen gives us lots of really great granular info on that. And then we even share some suggestions for practical tips as far as snacks and ways to reach your protein goals at the end of the day. So now we're going to get into our conversation on exercise. And I know for myself personally, exercise has been the least has received the least amount of investment from me. I love nutrition, and I have been interested in it for a long time, and I feel like I've really prioritized buying and preparing healthy foods for my family for many, many years. And even that, sometimes as we age, sometimes that is not enough, because my eating habits, I know, have not changed, but my body is responding to what I eat in a different way. And so knowing that exercise has to be layered in, not just to help the scale say what I want it to say, but also because exercise and building lean muscle is what is going to prepare my body for aging well. And one of my goals is to not need my children and my extended family to support me as much as I age. And so part of the way that I kind of stave off the breaking down of my body will be to build lean muscle now, and to continue prioritizing that. But there are definitely different barriers. We talked about barriers to nutrition, meeting nutrition goals in our last episode. And this one, we're going to mirror that same process, but it'll be specific to exercise. So we are always happy to have Gretchen in our conversation. She is such a sweet, dear friend, and she is uniquely qualified to speak to these conversations just because of her training and her qualifications as an MD. And then even more recently, Gretchen, tell us what you've done.
I know. What did I go and do?
What did you do?
I recently got my nutrition healthy living certificate. So yeah, that was good to take it kind of to the next level of understanding this nutrition and healthy living and exercise and all the things. So it was good.
It's good to have you fresh on all of that, for sure. I love that you want to share it too. I know I have picked your brain on a lot of things. And I will say too, like, if people have listened to any of our other episodes, they're going to know, like, obviously we're very close friends, but we are not the same person. We are very different in some ways, very similar in other ways. But this episode is going to really highlight one of the places where we are quite different, because you are an accomplished marathon runner, and you're a great goal setter, and you're great at consistency with movement and exercise. And I have seen you put in a tremendous amount of effort, and I've seen the payoff for you physically, just what I'm able to observe. And I hear you able to articulate the changes that you experience. And then for myself, I'm like, I can't quite get there.
Oh,
Get to the gym for various reasons. And if you haven't listened to the nutrition episode, definitely go back and listen to that too. You don't have to listen to it before this one, but I do go into some depth there about kind of the mental part of, like, what are the barriers to to making progress in these areas. And I feel like I just had some really honest moments there that are probably
Hmm.
relatable to a lot of people. And I will probably go back there in this episode too. But just wanting to make sure that we give a healthy dose of everyday life for all of y'all.
Yes.
Because to me, I'm like, Gretchen, you've really made this kind of the ideals as far as how you approach exercise and how consistent you are with it. When I'm texting you at 11 o'clock at night and you're like, I'm on the Peloton, I'm like, that's crazy. I'm in bed. That's crazy. Or you'll text me and be like, I'm at the gym.
Oh,
11:30. There's a part of me that's like, why can't I be like that? Why don't I have the energy? Why don't I care? Is it that I don't care enough? Is that I'm not diligent enough? I'm just tired.
yeah. I'm tired too, but you get up way earlier than me, so you have to give yourself some credit. I am not a morning person.
Oh boy.
And it's funny, like as much as you love nutrition is that's as much as I love exercise. Like it's just so funny how different we are in this area. I love talking exercise.
Well, you can talk to me. Maybe eventually some of that motivation will transfer.
Oh, but I feel like we all have different ideals, and maybe our ideals are like to not have to do it. Maybe
Hello.
that's the ideal.
I just want walking to be enough, and walking will never be enough.
I mean, walking is great though. It's a great foundation. It really is.
Foundation does not a house build. Like I know I need to be lifting the heavy things. I know that. I read
Yes.
Gabrielle Lyon's book. I know.
Yes. Yes.
I know.
Well, and walking is great, and you can walk with a weighted vest, right? Like there are
Yes.
ways to build in some muscle with that. But really exercise, similar to nutrition and similar to so many things in life, right? Like it is the consistency and it's like what you can consistently do. And I feel like my exercise journey has definitely morphed over time and in different seasons of life. I feel like in the exercise realm, my ideals have changed over time as they have with a lot of things. But I think our ideals have to be based in reality. And when you have a lot of young children at home, it's going to look different than when you have teenagers or an empty nest. So it's going to be different in your different seasons of life. So definitely in different seasons, I think, we have to have our ideals based somewhat in reality, right? So, if you have a lot of young children at home, it's going to look different than if you have teenagers at home, and just the different seasons are going to bring different ideals and different capacity for exercise. But I think having the ideal of moving your body is just so important. So we want to make the most of our time, whatever season we're in. We want to be efficient with what we choose to do in each season. And so if you're in a season with younger children, it may be putting them in the stroller and going for, a long walk with them. And if you have teenage sons, it may be going to the gym with them at 10 o'clock at night or whenever they are up for going. So different seasons are going to bring different opportunities for exercise. But I think having the goal of moving is a good starting place. Definitely, you want to think about being consistent over time. So that's why exercise is a lifestyle. It's not I'm going to get in shape and then go back to doing whatever we were doing before. So we want to find things that are enjoyable and that are sustainable, that it can just become a habit and become a part of our daily life. So in the younger years, like I said, you may be going out for a walk on the stroller, and it may be during nap time that you are lifting some dumbbells in that inside at home. And going to the gym is not a necessity. There are so many things you can do at home as far as exercise.
Well, Gretchen, I know I mentioned when we were kind of setting this conversation up about how you really love exercise. I really don't. And so I think one of the things that I that I do want to know, like, and I don't think I've ever asked you this, but when did you first realize that you loved exercise? Like, how did you know that you loved it? How did you kind of figure that out about yourself? And like, what actually is it about exercise that you love? Is it like how it makes you feel, how you feel while you're doing it or after, or the physical result? Like, what's
Hmm.
the, what am I not getting? Because I need to get it.
Oh, well, the kind of the first independent kind of exercise that I did was was a runner in middle school and some into high school. And then it was something that I could do on my own, that I could just put on my running shoes and just go run. And I found that I loved running mile after mile. And I was never super fast, but there was something about just the endurance of running that I just really enjoyed from probably like 13 or 14. And so I continued to run and I would do 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons. And then the half marathon was a great distance. I felt like it was attainable and something I could train for and still have somewhat of a life. And then I set the goal of, okay, I want to run a marathon before I turn 30. And so I ran my first marathon and trained for that. And that was during my pediatric residency. So I would be on call at the children's hospital and be on the treadmill in the like basement of the hospital workout room, and did nearly all of my long runs on that treadmill down there, which is kind of crazy to think about. So running was kind of my thing. And I remember there was one ER physician I worked with, and she was talking to me about lifting weights and how important it is to weight train. And this was back in like 2002, 2003. And so I got a barbell with the little screw-on weights on the end. And so that's kind of when I first started doing a little bit of weight training. But I didn't know what I was doing with weights and didn't really have a plan. And so the barbell ended up just kind of sitting there and I didn't do a whole lot with it, but I kept running. And I continued to run. I would do some weights, but it would mainly be like dumbbells, some bicep curls, some side raises, overhead press kind of things, just real simple barbell things or dumbbell things, sorry. Then it wasn't until I had my first DEXA scan done and I saw my muscle to body fat discrepancies and realized, oh my goodness, I've been doing all this running and yet I have not been building muscle. So I kind of realized in a lot of my younger years, I was consuming a lot of carbs and burning a lot of carbs, not eating a lot of protein and not building much muscle. So, although when you looked at the numbers, like my weight and BMI were in a okay range, my body composition was not. And so that's kind of another reason I'm a believer in understanding your body composition because the outside and the scale alone don't necessarily tell you the whole picture of your body composition and of your health. So that's really when I started doing a lot more weight training and eating a lot more protein, and running was more of my accessory thing and became more of a weekly thing instead of a daily thing. So now I really prioritize strength training, resistance training, muscle building, whatever you want to call it. I prioritize that 4 times a week. And then I try to do some type of zone two. So whether that's walking with a weighted vest, riding on the Peloton bike, I try to do that 4 times a week also. And then once a week, I will try to do something more high intensity, whether it's like sprints, to where one thing you can do is if you're out on a walk, you can pick a landmark ahead and say, I'm going to run as fast as I can to that light pole. And you do that and then you walk and or you lightly run or however, your whatever your off is. And then you pick another landmark and say, okay, that tree up there, I'm going to run as fast as I can to that tree. And so that can really help to increase your VO2 max and to increase your cardiovascular health. And so I will try once a week to do something. Maybe it's a harder workout on the bike or a hit workout on the bike, something like that. So that's kind of where I've landed now. And kind of the why for why I do it is it helps immensely with my mental health. I feel happier. I feel more awake. I feel, may sound crazy, but I feel less tired and more energized when I have exercised. I feel like my gut health feels better all over. I feel so much better with that consistency of exercise. There's the whole thing of if girls lift weights, you'll get bulky, and it just doesn't happen. I've been lifting weights for a while, and I'm for quite a while, and I am not bulky. Like it is, no.
But you're very strong.
Well, I try. So, yeah, and that's really my goal for me. Like my ideal now, it's not aesthetics. It's not that I want to look skinny or muscular, whatever. I want to be strong. I want to feel strong. I want to feel healthy. Like you said, we want to be in a position to where we can care for others as long as we can without them having to care for us in that way. But I want to be able to walk 20,000 steps around Disney World with my grandkids one day. So that's my ideal.
That's a
Um,
smart goal. Specific, measurable.
um, so that's kind of a little bit of my journey. I still love to run, and I feel like my running has improved
Mm.
a lot with strength training too. So I probably should have been strength training. Of course, I should have been since the beginning anyway, but it's never too late, as we've said multiple times. It is
Right.
never too late to build muscle and to try something new.
Well, that's one of the things that Gabrielle Lyon talks. We've mentioned this book multiple times in this
Mhm.
series, but that's one of the things that she talks about in her book. And she works with geriatric patients, but she's talked about even adding in strength training, resistance training, even for her older patients, how much of a difference that has made. That does help me to feel like, okay, I can still do it. I can still jump in. But one of the
Yes.
things I think, what I was saying with nutrition, I have cared about nutrition and I've prioritized and put that into practice for a very long time. And yet my body needs something different now. Like my body is responding differently
Hmm.
than it has for, all these previous years. And so, some of that is just being in menopause and trying to figure out, okay, well, when could I have been making changes sooner to where this wouldn't have gotten to where it is now? That may be one of the things that people who are listening are not quite there yet. But I think if I had known how to arrange my macros with nutrition in a more intentional way, not just eating healthy foods, but making sure that things are in their right proportions, that
Hmm.
would have helped. For a long time, I thought healthy foods plus my metabolism, which I inherited, that was enough. And then your metabolism starts to shift as you age and other things in your body change, particularly for women. So maybe if I had known about, how to arrange macros, plus also had I been exercising this whole time. I definitely have not been intentional with that. You had mentioned earlier about depending on like what season of life you're in, pushing a stroller if you've got a little one. I saw a picture, I think it was on your blog the other day, of you and one of your boys when they were much younger and y'all were
Hmm.
running. Y'all both had numbers on, like your race numbers pinned on your shirts.
Yes.
And I don't know if that was a 5K or if it was a half
Hmm.
marathon, but that was so cute. And our girls have just never really been. Lucy is more now. She likes to go to the gym, but she likes to go by herself and she loves lifting. That
Hmm.
girl is a
That's
rock. She
great.
is so solid, but she doesn't want to do it with me. She
Mm.
wants to go. She wants it to be her thing. And then Amelia's really not that interested right now. The times when I have been to the gym over the last year have primarily been with you or with Carrie, and those times have been few and far between. It's easy to kind of delay going when I feel like I'm already spending time doing all these other things. When school starts back, I'll have more time, or when the girls are out of the house, I'll have more time. And so those are things where I kind of justify like we've talked about, the
Hmm.
prioritization. But there's a lot of different, I think also kind of figuring out, so you prioritized running because you enjoyed it, and then you
Hmm.
learned that resistance training, how important that was. And so incorporating that, but you have 4 days where you do strength training and 4 days where you do, is it cardio that you said?
Hmm. Kind of a
So
zone
there's a
too.
day in
Yeah.
there that you're overlapping because there's only 7 days.
Right. So I
So
typically do, I will weight train and then get on the bike, or I will walk with my weighted vest during the day and then in the evening weight train. So I
okay,
do a lot of it on the same day. And
okay,
then but there is some flexibility. Maybe one day I'm only lifting weights and one day I'm only on the bike or out walking with my weighted vest. And then there's off days in there too. So, and again, that is my average over time. I mean, there are times when I'm on a vacation or I'm at camp with the church and things like, that I'm not doing those things. But it's more kind of an overtime. This is in general what my ideal is and what I'm shooting for. But
right.
yeah. And it's
That's
something that we started. I mean, my husband is very active. And so even when the kids were little, we did a lot of camping trips and would go hiking and do many miles a day of hiking with the kids. And so it was something that from the time, I mean, I would carry them in a backpack and then once they could walk, then they would walk. So from the time they were babies, they were on the trails with us and running trail races and going on hikes and climbing on rocks. And so it was just kind of like we talked about in the identity series. That was kind of our family culture from the time they were babies, that we have just in general been pretty active, whether it's playing ultimate frisbee down at the park or done a couple half marathons with the older kids, and then now doing weight training with some of the teen boys and things. So, yeah, different seasons have brought different things. But there were times even when they were little and, they would all be sitting at the counter eating lunch. And I remember I would do wall sits in the kitchen. So, wall sit is like when you do a squat, but you're leaning against the wall. And so, I would have them count. I remember, and I would see you count to 60 and I'll see if I could, do 1 minute wall sit or whatever. And then when they got older, we would do plank competitions together of who could hold the
that's
longest
awesome.
plank. Push-ups, we have pull-up bars in the house, so they will in the doorway go work on pull-ups, which that was my goal. By the time I turned 50, I wanted to be able to do one pull-up because, oh my goodness, just to even be able to hang was so hard for me. So now I can do one pull up.
Imagine what would happen if I tried to do a pull up.
I mean, it's crazy how much it has taken for me to get it. Yeah, there are different ways, in different seasons to incorporate different things. And one of the things that I either read about or heard about, I can't remember where it came from, but they were talking about doing exercise snacks. And so it was talking about if you kind of have a sedentary day, that every 30 to 60 minutes, do an exercise snack. So whether it's 10 push-ups or do a plank or do box jumps or do some dumbbells, or maybe it's a walk around the building if you're, working in an office or something. But I love like really like practical things like that, that you can just say, okay, I don't have to have some elaborate plan, right? Just every hour I'm going to do have a little exercise snack, and go do something just to keep active because those things add up. So even, doing those little exercise snacks or any kind of things that you're doing, like housework wise, cleaning wise, all those kind of things, those matter. And It's called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So you are expending energy and using those calories outside of this structured exercise program. So just increasing your NEAT, your non-exercise thing, that is going to be helpful too. So it doesn't always have to be some structured gym workout. It's all those little things, those little habits and things that we build over time. They add up.
Also have this really cute printable on your blog that we can link to the show notes for this episode that is just a grid. I think it's either
Mm-hmm.
25 or 30 squares,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a different activity, like a different movement activity in each square. And I was thinking that would be great to print out, whether you have young kids or older kids, you could print it out and say, you pick the one that you want to do with mommy, or
Yes.
you pick one for me and I'll pick one for you, or, cut them out and put them in a little bag and everybody draws
Ooh,
one.
that's a great idea.
There's a way that you can and try to have the whole thing marked out by the end of the month, or,
Hmm.
use it however you want. But I thought that's a really great way to give maybe a kid who's more resistant to movement. If you said, we're all going to do push-ups now, and they're like, I'm not doing that. You can say, well, how about you choose? And, you can pick whichever one you want. Sometimes that kind of illusion of autonomy can go a long way in like converting them towards what you
Yes.
to do. But even something like that would be, even with your teens, like if I
Hmm.
can see where that might be useful at my house, but just say, listen, you have to pick one because I love you and you
Yes.
have to move and I want us to have time together. So you choose which one. So maybe I'll try that and I'll let you know how it
Yes.
goes.
I would love that's awesome. Yes. And competition goes a long way. It's
There's
like,
that.
see if you can
Mhm.
hold a plank longer than mommy.
At one of our girls' birthday parties last year, they had a planking contest
That is
at the birthday
amazing.
party with all the friends.
That is great.
That was funny.
Did Lucy win that one?
Can't remember. She was one of the last ones.
I
I can't
bet.
remember who won. I have a video. I'll have to
That
look
is
at the
awesome.
back. Well, I love the like just the way that consistency weighs into this conversation, same as with nutrition. And I think when you talk about something over a long period of time, it helps to kind of take some of the pressure off because it says there's grace for today. I can find a time tomorrow. I can make a way, and it takes, for myself, it takes the stress and the pressure out of it. But also being reminded of why am I doing this? Is it because I want to look a certain way? Is it because of my mental health? Is it because I want to have longevity and be able to care for others instead of needing to be cared for? So identifying why is going to help you to remain motivated. And I obviously have some work to do because I just articulated my why, but I am still not doing it. I really do not want our children to be responsible for taking care of me because I did not prioritize taking care of myself. And they need to see, you've reminded me of this too, like our kids need to see us prioritizing health. Sometimes it's hard to know which way to go with your time when you are a mom and a wife and you have all these things that you're responsible for, and your kids are going to be home only for a finite amount of time, and they remind you of that, and
Right.
you just feel torn. I know we like to wrap things up with action steps so that listeners feel like they can walk away and have some kind of attainable plan. Do you have some action steps that you would want to share and encourage our listeners to take if they are considering incorporating exercise into lifestyle?
Definitely. So, just like we had with nutrition on our show notes, we have a card that you can print out. It says exercise at the top and one, two, three. And I would just encourage you to set three goals. And they can be very simple things like, I am going to move every hour. You're going to have that exercise snack every hour. Maybe that's one of your goals. Or maybe it's more specific of I'm going to walk at least 10,000 steps every day. So maybe it's you want to start strength training. And so you say, I'm going to lift some weights twice a week, or maybe once a week. Just pick any kind of goal that will get you moving. Maybe you're going to do that 30-day challenge Jennifer talked about with you printing out the little grid. And I'm going to do that 30-day challenge to move every day based on kind of where you are and what your story is and what season of life you're in. I would pick three things, write them down on your card, try to incorporate those into your weekly life. And the more you take steps in that direction, they're going to become habits and it's just going to become a part of your lifestyle. I would also encourage you to not necessarily reassess after, say, 1 week or 2 weeks. It may take longer for you to notice differences in mood or energy or all the things. So give it a good 6 weeks of your goals and see how things are, and then reassess and work towards making progress. So we just encourage you to make those three goals, to set them as a priority, and we'll be back next week when we will get to introduce you to another new friend talking all about nutrition and exercise.